Doing week to people. Hey, aloha, everybody. This is Jeff Reinebold. It's another week, and it's another show, another Coffee with Coach. It is Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, and Michael, you guys have a bank holiday weekend coming up this week too, don't you? In the UK?
People, yes. Hi, Jeff. How are you? People in the UK are off this Thursday and Friday for the Jubilee, and then people in Ireland are off the following Monday for bank holidays. So, yeah, I'm in Northern Ireland, which means I'm off Thursday, Friday, and I'm heading away to Spain, which means this is why this is pre-recorded. So I apologize.
Let me tell you that if you look at the Hawaiian flag, inside the Hawaiian flag is the Union Jack, and there's a long, long history between the island and the UK. And in commemoration of Jubilee, the Queen's Jubilee this weekend, 70 years on the throne, right? We are going to have a invitational croquet match in our backyard, and we will have finger sandwiches, finger sandwiches, and we'll
Your
be drinking.
backyard, yeah?
In our backyard, we are going to have everybody has to wear white. It will have a croquet match in honor of the Queen's Jubilee. And right now, my wife, Leslie, is the odds-on favorite to win. So, but, it's game day, so I'll compete.
Can this be live streamed somewhere, or can this be watched on social media the weekend?
I
And
don't know if anybody wants to see it, but we actually have people from, Canada will be represented, South Africa will be represented. There's a Commonwealth community over here. I'm sorry, I was unable to find any Irish, but hey, we'll be all right. You may have to do a cameo.
for the Commonwealth croquet, okay. Well, I'll try my best, Jeff, and I'll try and
But
I'll,
looking for somebody from Wales. If anybody from Wales wants to come over and join us, we'll take care of you. But maybe you could throw out the first croquet ball. You'd be.
there's times I love having I love having dual citizenship and dual nationality, and now is one time croquet in Hawaii. Talking about traveling, you've been very vocal, Jeff, about this college game in Ireland over the last few days. I seen they announced the time 5:30 local time here. That's that's late, man. It's a good time because like it's good. But I seen a couple of tweets. Are you planning to fly over? Is something you haven't told me or something? Or what's going on?
I tell you, if I can get there, I'm going to get there because it's such an amazing thing to think about. Nebraska and Northwestern, two Big Ten Western Division foes. That's a big game because both of those teams didn't have good years last year, but both of those teams are talking about significant improvement this year. And Northwestern has been in the hunt for the Western Division title in the past. And I think this is going to be a great game. And what's amazing, Michael, and I think this is what the fans will see when they go to the game, the intensity, the pageantry, the tradition, all of that stuff in college football is, like the NFL's 100 years old. College football, these teams have been playing this game for 150 years. It's much older than pro football is. So the traditions are so strong and the passion is so strong because nobody ever graduated from the Chicago Bears, right? Nobody ever graduated from the Denver Broncos. These are people who it's their school, their state, their pride, And so I think fans, if they come to the game, are really going to enjoy watching the whole thing, the whole deal around, college football. Hey, let's talk about the NFL. Justin Fields, a lot of positive stuff coming out of Chicago about Justin Fields' development. Matt Eberflus has been in, just like gushing about how hard he works, what a great guy he is, what a great leadership role he's begun to take, how he corrects his teammates positively. Um, there's apparently a story about he and Darnell Mooney were in the facility till midnight the other night, walking through the plays that they were going to, put in OTAs the next day. I know it's early, but certainly if you're a Bears fan, that's got to make you feel pretty good.
We were saying just because they don't really have a standout wide receiving core. Justin Fields is saying it doesn't really matter. They've got a great bunch of guys that are talented as a group, and they're looking to him as a leader now in the locker room. I'm intrigued to see how he's going to play as a neutral in the situation. You want that division to be competitive. For it to be competitive, you need the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions to try and match Green Bay. So it's intriguing to see what he's going to do this year. The whole talk of him staying up to 12:30 at night. Jeff, I've been around the ringer the last 4 or 5 years with quarterbacks for my team. I don't know. Like, I had quarterbacks that were sitting in the room with each other, but it was actually their COVID trackers sitting opposite and stuff. I think it's great. Long way to go. It's not silly season right now, but I mean, Mac Jones is in the best nick of his life apparently in terms of his own body. So that's the sort of situation we are in now. The Bears is a intriguing project. They have a lot of fans in the UK, a lot of fans in Ireland. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this season with Justin Fields.
Those young receivers, I mean, they've got to show up because Mooney's good enough. The question is, are the guys around him, St. Brown and the guys that they brought in? They lost a lot of good football players at that position. And, Eberflus got his hands full. He lost Khalil Mack. The Bears are in a full rebuild, and that's going to take some time, I'm afraid. And
I know he's not a wide receiver, Jeff, but I really like Cole Kmet. I liked
yeah,
him last year, and his potential is, for me, through the roof if they can get him in the right plays, the right sort of skill sets. So again, it's the Bears are. I would look at the Bears in terms of potential in a far better way than I would look at the New York Giants, for example. I do think Justin Fields has got more of a chance to succeed in Chicago than Daniel Jones does. I know you were talking about this last week. That's a big statement.
There is a statement out of Ireland today. Hey, you know what? I think we got a Bears question, so we'll get back to the Bears here in a second. But there's some news. Jadeveon Clowney back with the Browns. He's all excited about pairing up with Myles Garrett again. I looked at Clowney's career. Interesting, Michael. As much money as he's made in the National Football League, he has never had, not one time in his career, a double-digit sack season. And that would be a huge accomplishment for him. And, that's the kind of play the Browns are going to need. I think the Browns are going to be better. Obviously, he's excited about playing with Watson at quarterback. But again, I think the Browns are another one of those teams we're going to have to watch real close. They could maybe win 5-6 more games, depending on how Watson goes with with his suspension issue. So there's a lot of questions about that, but there's no question that not Clowney. I'm talking about David Njoku. How about that? How about that big?
You ever watch WWF, Jeff?
Suspension. Pardon me?
You ever watch the World Wrestling Federation?
Yes, I do.
Shane O'Mac, here comes the money.
Yeah. Well,
56 million. Jeez, I mean, that is
$56 million contract extension, right? And a lot of it guaranteed money, and that's the biggest thing when you
Jeff. He's got 15 touchdowns in 5 years.
That's what I'm saying. It's the cost of doing business in the National Football League. I mean, there are guys making millions and millions of dollars. Can you imagine how, some of the great tight ends of the past look at these salaries and go, "What? Are you kidding me?" I mean, Kellen Winslow Sr. Imagine that. As great a player as he was, and all the touchdowns that he scored, this guy's making $56 million. He scored 15 in 3 years. The Ravens are doing some positive things in the back end of that defense, signing players, getting players back healthy. But reading the article on NFL.com, Mike, the thing that impressed me was they're talking about adding to the scheme. Martindale, the defensive coordinator there, is a friend of mine. I love Wink. He's a great coach. He and Rob were together last year, but that defense was historically bad last year. And part of the fact was that they were all pressure and nothing else. And then they lost their cover guys, and the pressure couldn't hold up. The coverage couldn't hold up, and they gave up more touchdowns than any time in his Raven history. And then now they're talking about diversifying the scheme, playing more zone, playing guys in different positions so that they do get injuries, that they can handle it better. So I think all positive steps from a coaching standpoint right now with the Ravens. Marcus Mariota is in the news. Again, he's excited to get back on the field, he says. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was, we talked about should the veteran quarterback nurture the young guy? Should he mentor the young guy? Well, there's
What do you
another.
think? Do you think he should?
Oh no, no question. I think that's what a good teammate does, right? And I was impressed. Now knowing Marcus, I know that this is kind of way he is, but he talked about part of his role was to help mentor Desmond Ridder, and I think that's what good teammates do. I don't get that bit about it's not my job. It's everybody's job to help everybody, and Ryan Tannehill, I'm sure, regrets what he said, although if he feels that way, I just really think that's a selfish attitude to take. Lamar Jackson is responding to criticism that he's not in OTAs. He said, I'll get there. Guys, I don't get it. You are the leader.
You said the same thing last week about who was
I
it
don't
last
get
week?
I don't get it. Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray, yeah, that's what it
You
was.
want to be the leader. You want to be the face of the franchise. Well, then lead. Get out front and lead. And,
I don't know, Jeff. You can bookmark this. 31st of May, Tuesday, the 31st of May. I have the Ravens going far this season as it stands. I think they're gonna do very well this year.
I don't doubt that. They're going to be healthy again. They got new blood in the coaching staff.
Lamar has to go for it this year as well. He has to go for it this year.
Back year, yeah. And so again, but all that aside, I don't understand a quarterback that would not be in, especially at his point in his career, right? And with all of the changes that and coming off of a bad year, they're all things that tell you my job now as the leader of this football team is to get in there and show, work harder than anybody in the building, right? But
yeah, I mean, for me, I've never played in the NFL, but the off season's long enough. You're getting paid a lot of money. You've a lot of potential there. I'd be looking to get back in from day one. It just doesn't really make sense to me. I completely agree with you. Here, before we get to the questions, because there's like 10, right? Your leads stayed up. Did we talk about this last week? We did, yeah.
My man, right there. I'm giving you one of the tip of the cap to the Whites.
Yeah, they done well in the last day, Jeff. I mean, now this is it. And fair play to them.
Now they got to restock that roster. They got to get better. They got to get better players. They got to get
free agency.
Hey, that's free. It's every sport, Mike. It's every sport. Hey, a couple news items. One positive, one negative. We'll start with the negative news so we can finish on a positive note. But Jeff Gladney, the young 25-year-old DB from the Arizona Cardinals, died in a car accident the other night. It's right now being investigated by Dallas police. Gladney was a first-round draft pick of the Vikings out of TCU, had a good rookie season, got himself in some trouble off the field. The Vikings cut him. It was a domestic violence issue. He was proven innocent. Arizona signed him in the offseason, was really looking forward to him helping their secondary. And again, that old saying, nothing happens good after 1 o'clock. And apparently it was at real late at night, and we don't know the details of it, but terribly sad that a young guy was taken away at that age. And again, I just encourage everybody out to do not drink and drive. I mean, what's amazing about this, Mike, if there was alcohol involved, and I don't know if there was or not, but the NFL has a policy where if you're an NFL employee and you've been drinking and you've been out with your friends, even if you went to dinner and had 3 glasses of wine or whatever, you can call and they will send a car to pick you up and take you wherever you do not have to drive. And still we have problems with guys drinking and driving. So that's one of the things we gotta take a look at, and guys got to understand, man, it's just, especially when it's late at night, it's not worth the risk. All right, now let's finish with some positive news, and it comes from the Canadian Football League. Our guy, tag leader.
Hold on, are they back? I seen you were on strike. What's going on?
They settled their work dispute on Thursday of last week. Friday, Hamilton plays Montreal in the first game of the season, and it's a back and forth game the whole game. Hamilton gets the ball. They're down by one with I don't know, less than 30 seconds to play. They get the ball, run a play, throw a long pass on second down, pass interference against Montreal, moves the ball all the way up, spot foul, moves it all the way up. And with no time left on the clock, Irishman, tag leader, trots onto the field and bangs a 35-yarder through the uprights to win. And after the game, I tweeted his comments after the game because I thought they were priceless. Because Michael, he goes out and kicks the field goal, right? And the entire sideline rushes the field. And it shows him turn around. And I thought he was going to run away from everybody. He didn't realize, I don't think he realized that that's what they were doing. But interestingly enough, Tag has only played 10 games of pro football at any level, 10 games of football at any level. And he gets called on, no time left on the clock, and he responds. And now that doesn't mean he's going to make the team, but what a great, for the rest of his life, he'll remember that moment.
I was saying to you off camera, I woke up and seen this on Sunday, and I was like, "This is class!" Like, what can you say? And then about 2 hours later, I seen the interview, and it was class. Fair play to him. Like, I mean, unreal. You just hope that obviously, I personally think that Ty will get a shot in the CFL this year. But hopefully with the Tiger Cats, if not with a different team. I can't see why he wouldn't. Because he's, albeit a preseason game, he's showing there that he can handle himself under pressure. And I'm sure for him in that moment, that's pressurizing. Those guys didn't have a lot of time in preseason or like in training because of the strike. So for him to move to Poland, halfway across the world, going over to Canada, it's a big thing, and I wish him all the very, very best. I'm gonna keep my Irish hat on here, even though all the UK and European ones listening here going, "Shut up." Man, we're buzzing. Like, we've a couple of boy playing for the Chargers practice squad team in a minute, boy playing for the Saints. This has to be the year. I personally, it would be the first time since 1985 if it happened in the NFL. Hoping Ty keep going in CFL. Wish him all the best. And to all the Irish lads that I haven't realised your name yet because I'm trying to get into college football, I apologise. But delighted for Ty. Fantastic. I text him. I think his phone's not working on WhatsApp. So Ty, if you want to give me a shout, feel free. But good news.
I think it's fantastic news. Think about this, Michael. You got 3 guys right now, Irish kids playing professional football, right? The CFL after that game had to cut down. They had to cut 10 players, so they had to go down to 75 players. Tag survived the cut, right? There's one more cut he's got to make now. So they play again on Saturday night in Toronto. So unless something changes during the week, he's going to get one more opportunity to go out there and kick in professional football. And he's going to have to survive the cut, but he's still there. 3 guys off the Emerald Isle. I think that's an awesome, awesome thing. So all you young Irish kids, realize that your dream can come
Keep
true.
kicking the ball.
Speaking of young Irish kids and dreams coming true, Wednesday this week. Now I want to make sure on this, so give me 1 second. I'm going to look this up.
Are you announcing that I'm going to Spain or what? What I'm going
Not
on holidays, Jeff. I'm not moving there.
bigger than you going to Spain, my man. It is much bigger than that. This week, all right, on Wednesday, the Reinebold Wanderers, a soccer team in Ireland, in Dublin, is going to play for the conference championship. All right. So it's all down to one game. So if you want to follow them, all right, go to Reinebold_Wanderers, and they use a rhinoceros as their team symbol. All right. And you can see, you got clips of the games, the previous wins that they've had. It's a dynamic team. I'm proud of them. They're going to play this Wednesday night in Dublin for the championship. And again, I'm hopeful that they'll come away as
are they based in Dublin or what?
Irish college students, right? And they're playing in the college league, and they are their first year together, and they're playing in the championship game. So I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on this team. getting players.
Oh, gee, right here.
All right, let's take some questions, buddy.
Before we take some questions, we've seen a guy that would be connected. He was on the draft. Jeff Stewart Love put up a post on Twitter this week. He's going through a few things, and just want to wish him the very best. I know you tweeted that earlier on, and just obviously Stewart all the best. I know it's been a difficult time recently, so just all the best, man.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that, we're all a family here. We're all a community, and that's not just something you talk about. It's something that you really do. And Stewart has been a great fan. He's been a tremendous, tremendous fan, Steeler fan, and been a, big part of our broadcast at Sky, a big part of our, taking our road trips throughout the UK. And he's battling with some demons right now. And again, those are things that, I first of all, I commend his courage to come out and talk about it. And second of all, just Stu, we just want you to know that we got your back, and again, we're supporting you. You can do this. You're a champion, and you'll do what champions do, and that's fight it. So good luck to you, my man. All right, now.
Well said, Jeff. Well said. 7 questions. We'll try and roll through these. Neil Dutton, a big fan of yours, Jeff. With
From
more, huh?
from
Neil Dutton on Twitter
I
from.
know Neil Dutton, but what's the deal here? What's the rules? We got to
I
have
know.
some.
I know he's from England. I know he's part of various different podcasts, waxing lyrical as well. So I'm literally reading this off now, Neil. So he says, with more teams employing split safeties in order to limit explosive plays in the passing game, do you think that teams may start to run the ball more than they have over the last few years?
I think it's an interesting thing, and it's a great question by a guy that understands the game, because what Neil's talking about is teams employing two high safeties and basically playing a lot of what we call cover four, where if a receiver goes deep, the corner goes deep, the safety goes deep, and you have four deep players, and as opposed to two or three, which is standard in the NFL, you're going to get more and more of this coverage because abilities people are throwing the ball vertically down the field more. But I do believe that football runs in cycles. And when you play cover four, one of the challenges with it is that you're usually playing with a thin box, what we call thin numbers in your box. And so just think about it this way. Teams in 11 personnel, which is the personnel group that most NFL teams use now about 70% of the time. One tight end, one back, three wide receivers. There's a tight end and a wide receiver to the field, two receivers into the boundary. Well, you counter on defense by playing the strong safety high, the free safety high, and then the corners will read number two. If number two goes vertical and threatens the middle of the field, which is where normal two deep shells are susceptible to big plays, the corner will then match the wide receiver up the field, and they'll play short underneath. Normally, when you play two high safeties, you have 5 under 2 deep. When you play cover four, you've got 3 under 4 deep. So again, it does leave you shy. It does leave you shy in the box. It's a great football question, and it's the kind of one that hopefully one day we'll get the technology with this thing where I could actually diagram that for you on much like we do use the telestrator at Sky.
Man, we haven't got the resources for that. Come on, come on, come on.
You big money.
Right, right. Neil, thank you very much for that comment, and I'm sure Neil's very happy after that Eagles draft or after the last few moves in 3 years. And say, Reese Knott from the UK says, "Hi Jeff, is the Ravens' lack of an experienced number one wide receiver going to be an issue this season, or will Mark Andrews, a running game plus a little bit of Rashad Bateman and their star-studded defense get them home field advantage in the playoffs?" I'll start off with my answer. Absolutely, it will. They'll be grand. I think they'll be
You
top
are
four in the
really
AFC.
bullish. You are really bullish on the Ravens, huh?
I don't know. I've got a feeling this year is a big year for the Ravens. That's crap analysis, but something's saying to me the Ravens. In the same way last year was the Rams. The Rams I'm like, okay, well the Ravens, okay,
You
Ravens.
know, I think the Ravens will get back to playing Raven football. You see the way they drafted. They drafted to their DNA. They're going to be better. They're going to be better up front offensively. Bateman will, I think, be everything that Hollywood Brown was. I'm looking for James Prochet that receiver that they got out of SMU to take another step next year. Andrews is always going to be the number one guy when you talk about that offense and Lamar Jackson. And if Lamar can stay healthy, he's got to stay healthy because, they've got Hundley and Huntley as their backup quarterbacks, but neither of those guys is Lamar Jackson. So again, I like the Ravens too. I just think that it's so much of it's going to come down to health and the development of those young receivers.
Mickey Richardson from England, which rooks will have the biggest impact on their teams this year?
Well, great question, Nikki. I think, you look at the guys that were drafted high. I think Sauce Gardner has a chance to be a dominant player. I think Hutchinson, everything I've heard out of Detroit is that Hutchinson is exactly what they thought he was going to be. Great effort, smart, tough, spends, every waking hour trying to be a better football player, whether that's in the weight room, in the meeting room, whatever. Where I think Hutchinson's going to have a little bit of an advantage. This is interesting. I think Dan Campbell said this, and I thought about it when I heard him say it. He's going to go against two really good tackles every day in practice. And that's going to help him when he gets to the games because he's not going to see a Penei Sewell every week. And he's going to see that guy every day in practice. So he's going to go against good players. They got two good tackles, and he's going to go against good players every day. That'll give him an advantage. I'm fascinated to see what Travion's going to do in Jacksonville. I like Stingley if he can stay healthy and stay motivated. There's just a ton of those young kids I think are going to be great players. You look around and I think Breece Hall is another guy, Mike, that I think is going to have a great rookie.
This next question is from Ryan in Leeds. When Leeds win the Premier League next year, how will he celebrate? It's not going to happen, so there's no point in.
Hopefully I'm in the stands when they cement their win over Liverpool.
So you're going to fly from Hawaii to Leeds for
that?
Yeah.
You know what? When they down Liverpool to become champions, I might even fly you in just to have you be a part of the ceremony.
Sean Marks from Essex. We've got 3 or 4 questions left. Sean Marks from Essex. Will the NFC East have the worst overall divisional record of all divisions this coming season? And who will qualify out of the division? The Commanders with a face.
I think that division is going to be a little better than people think, right? Because the Cowboys, I think, will have a bounce back season a little bit. I think, obviously, the Commanders in the 3rd year now with Ron Rivera, and I'm a big Ron Rivera fan. I think he's done an amazing job and a really, really, really tough job. I think they have a chance. Philly has gotten much, much better. And I think the Giants, the Joe Judge experiment was obviously didn't get it done. I think Brian Dable will give him a shot of juice. You're not a Daniel Jones fan. I am a little bit. I think he's better than people give him credit for. And I think that, you're going to see that this year. Now, the division that I think could be bad, frankly, Michael, is the NFC North. Because I don't see how Detroit's going to be much better than maybe 2 wins better, 3 wins better. Chicago, everybody's predicting they're only going to win 3 games. I think that's a little small. I think that's a little short. The Vikings have a lot of questions, and the Packers obviously are the kingpin of that division. So, they may, if you talk about just total wins within the division, if you throw the Packers out, right? Let's say throw the Packers out, throw the Cowboys out. And you might say that the NFC East is going to have more wins than the NFC North when you talk about Chicago, Detroit, and Minnesota, as opposed to Philly, the Commanders, and the Giants.
I just want to bring it up before we get the last 2 questions. Do you know during the season that Coach Belichick has a sponsored show with Dunkin' Donuts called what? Happy with the coach. Swear to God. Anyway, Colin Smith from England. Thoughts on the big news? He literally done that big news that the Patriots don't have conventional coaching assignments. Love your work, coach.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and thank you for the question. Um, Not really surprised about that because you know Belichick has always been one of those guys that's not afraid to move guys around on his staff. You know, to move guys up, move guys down, laterally, whatever he thinks he needs to do to get the message to his players. And you know, you look at a lot of those guys that he has back there now are guys that have had experience with him in the past, that know him and know that everything that they teach, and I mean everything that they teach, is Bill Belichick approved. There's not anybody, there are no independent contractors on that coaching staff. You're not going to go out on the practice field and teach something, whether it's even as fine as a technique on how you play a block or plant and drive out of your cut, or you know how you catch the foot. Nothing is taught on that field that doesn't have Bill Belichick's seal of approval on it. So I think it's a good thing. It's good for the coaches, keeps them fresh, and it keeps the message fresh to the players.
Final question before we get our guest on. It's from a guy in Keighley in England. It's called Tutti no aniamo Leeds, in brackets. We all love Leeds, close brackets. Wow. I love it. My brother, do you think that the Raiders will definitely make the postseason after an impressive set of incomings? Hashtag ALAW, hashtag LUFC, hashtag Raider Nation. Wow, that's a good set of hashtags there, Jeff.
This might be my brother, right? I mean, this guy's got to be somehow related to me because he's a Leeds fan and a Raiders fan. So he's got the double. he's got the he's doubly vexed. But no, I think the Raiders are going to be much better. The problem now, again, see, this is where you can we can look at what the Raiders have done, and you say, "Wow, I think they're going to be much better." You know, this next year. But then you also got to say, okay, who are we competing against? Well, Kansas City, they're one of the best in the league. Denver goes out and gets the thing that they desperately needed in Russell Wilson, their quarterback, and improved their football team. And San Diego, I think, has improved their football team. The Chargers have improved their football team. So it's just like some of the other teams in the league. For example, you look at Miami. I don't know how many wins that improvement in Miami is going to translate to. You know, it might be 2, it might be 7. It's just you never know. But I do believe that both those teams will be better. I think the Raiders have a chance to be a pretty doggone good football team. I think McDaniels will do a much better job offensively, giving them balance, and then defensively, I'm not sold yet. I'm not sure about how good they are up front. Their overall defensive personnel is not great, so it's going to be important that they have a great year.
Jeff, I appreciate you doing this pre-recorded. I'm going to Spain tomorrow. I'm away. I'm hasta mañana, but we're going to be back next week, probably like next Tuesday. I want to thank everyone for getting the questions in. It's really been really great to get
Mike,
the questions in, Jeff, and chat to fans. Jeff, who's this week's guest?
this week's guest. Before I get to this week's guest, I got to ask you this one question.
Go for
I'm
it.
always fascinated by this. When an Irishman goes to Spain, right? What level of sunscreen do you have to take?
Well, look at this already. Look, I was at a football match, like a Gaelic football match on Sunday, right? And I was just
Notice.
sitting the whole
I
time,
noticed.
and it went to extra time, so it went on for a while, and my nose is sunburned, everything's like just red, whereas my
Well,
arms are white. I don't know, but yeah, like a lot basically. I'll be as red as a potato next week, basically.
well, I look forward to seeing you next week. But our guest this week is a young coach that I met when I was coaching at SMU. He came down to visit us, and a friend of mine called from up in Montana and said he wanted to send his quarterback coach down to learn about the run and shoot offense, and you know, ended up that the guy ended up staying with my son and I, and because we lived right close to the field and we could walk right across the street to work every day. He stayed with us. I think it was a week, And I was really impressed with the young guy. Really smart, really good heart, good coach, good communicator. I've watched his career uh, as he's gone from college football back to high school football, where he's a head coach in Herndon, Virginia, and a guidance counselor. Extremely successful head coach, one of the really good teachers, right? Because I think great teachers are, you talked about the Patriots coaching staff. Great coaching staffs have great teachers. Marcus Mayo is our guest today, and he is a great teacher. And he wrote a book called Mindful Quarterbacking, which I highly recommend to any athlete, particularly any young athlete. And if you're a parent, you should read it too, because it talks about not the physical part of playing quarterback, which everybody can talk about, but the mental aspect, how to create a winning edge mentally for your players. And I think it's a fantastic book. So I asked him to come on and talk about his book.
Brilliant, Jeff. Very well said, folks. Enjoy the interview. Jeff, I'll see you soon. Mahalo.
All right, my brother. Take care. Aloha.
Hey, aloha. Welcome to a very special guest, a guy that I've known since 2009. And we were just backstage, if you will, talking story about when we met for the first time in 2009 when we were at SMU. And this young guy was a guy that had a real desire to be a football coach, real desire to be understand the run and shoot offense. And he's parlayed all that into now a career as a football coach, high school football coach in the state of Virginia. He's also a guidance counselor, a real good man, and has written a book that I have read and I find it fantastic. It's called Mindful Quarterbacking. I got a copy of it right here, and it is available at coacheschoice.com. And if you have a young quarterback, and I think really for any athlete, it deals with the mental part of the game, which is a part of the game that too often we don't talk about, but we're going to talk about it here this morning. So I'd like to welcome to the show Marcus Mayo. Marcus, welcome to the show.
Aloha, Coach. Appreciate you having me. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you, my man. It's been a day or two since we met back in 2009, and you have done some great things in your career. And tell me now, or tell our listeners and viewers now, you're in Virginia. You're in the Herndon area in Virginia as a head high school coach. All right. How did this come to be? What was the genesis of your book?
So back in, I wrote it when I, back in Montana, while actually coaching Carroll College with Coach Van Diest, who I know had some great battles against on the football field as a coach yourself. And it was right before around the time I was getting ready to head to grad school, so before I got my master's degree in counseling. And actually, as time went on and playing football and playing the quarterback position and seeing the way it was coached, I realized over time that there was just a need to just focus on the mental components of what it takes to play the position and what might be the missing link towards getting improvement while coaching the position. They tie hand in hand. Coincidentally or not, however we want to look at it, it really began to shift for me when I began to learn in my undergrad more about mindfulness meditation. And we had this conversation coincidentally years before the book was written about the way Coach Morrison communicated with his quarterbacks and the calmness that he was able to deliver with them, and just kind of that I hope I'm right, that aloha culture and communication about you don't need to be aggressive to get the most out of the way you coach, and the way players respond to the way you respond is often the foundation of how they play. And I wanted to be able to expand that into an entire lifestyle on how you can coach and play the position and maximize a quarterback's ability to maximize what he wants to do and what a coach wants him to do with those core applications.
All right. So now, just so the fans know, Dan Morrison was a longtime partner of Coach June Jones at the University of Hawaii, and then on to SMU. And then again, Dan's most recent posting was at Washington State as the interim offensive coordinator there. One of the really brilliant guys in the business, particularly about offensive football and quarterback play in general. And he has a demeanor with players that is fantastic. And
unbelievable. It's the best I've ever seen ever.
And so now when you talk about two quarterback coaches in June Jones and Dan Morrison that can do amazing things with players, because if you look at the proof is in not so much what you know, but it's what your players know and what your players are, how they're able to perform. You can do a history on those two guys, and you're going to find, some of the best quarterbacks that ever threw a pass have been coached by both of those guys. And neither one of them has probably ever raised their voice on the practice field. I cannot remember June Jones one time hollering, and I can never remember Dan Morrison speaking at a rate of louder than what we are right here today. So those guys influence you, right? And the whole mindfulness concept, Marcus, is fascinating to me for athletes, because when you talk about some of the things, the key components of mindfulness, and when we talk about the non-judgmental mind, and what it's like to play totally free. I see so many young players come to us in pro football that have been beaten down mentally to the point that they're almost so afraid to fail that they never actualize themselves to the rate that they should. Absolutely. And has that been your response to the whole thing?
Yeah. So I figured, I knew there needed to be a change without judging the way coaches, because people get things done in different ways, but providing an opportunity for players to maximize their potential while basically, playing free and not being hard on themselves in terms of judgmental. And oftentimes, as we all do, we allow our present moment to become our entire life's outcome. And when we make a mistake, or we throw a bad pass, we throw the pick, we take the sack, we knock a team out of field goal range, whatever, turn the wrong direction on a handoff, whatever the case may be, we are more times than not associating that immediate result with the entire foundation of our life. And because I've been guilty of it, and I still have to reel myself in sometimes. As coaches, we do the same thing, and then we project that current state into a full reality onto our players.
Who that athlete is.
And on who the athlete is, what they can and can't do, and our body language, our demeanor, the way we talk. It's not just a moment for them, because they're not trained supposed to hear the message, not the tone. For them, it's an existence. And a minor shift in the way we approach someone can infect the entire mentality and tone of an entire game.
All right, so let me take the readers into, I believe it's chapter 1, and chapter 1 is entitled Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.
So give me a little bit of the Hakuna Matata philosophy.
So it's millions and millions of people around the world know Hakuna Matata, means no worries. And I actually began using that early in high school as a QB's coach, because what I noticed was there would be a mistake, and immediately the players, whether it's a mistake or something positive happened, would immediately turn for approval or prepare themselves for a particular tongue lashing or critique. And it kind of ties in with a lot of the run philosophy of hang loose, go reckless, and score. And what I learned is when I communicate with my players that I'm going to have more patience with you than you're going to have with yourself. And I promise you that. That's a non-negotiable. They immediately relax. When they make a mistake, Hakuna Matata is not, I don't care, but it's nothing that just happened. Nothing that just happened is going to fix what just happened. If that makes sense. Nothing that
Well,
happened.
use the analogy that you use in the book, because it's about Rafiki and Simba and an incident. And you know what? When I read your book, it was like all of a sudden I remember that little piece in the movie, but I didn't get the message until I read your book.
Yeah. So there's that part in the movie where Simba is dwelling on everything that's happened to him, and Rafiki's telling him, we just basically got to work in the present moment. The past is the past, and you got to let that go. Well, Rafiki, Simba's not getting the message. Here's Rafiki hits him over the head with this stick, which I don't advise any coach do, but it worked for him. All right, he hits Simba in the head with this stick, and he said, "What did you do that for?" He goes, "Doesn't matter. It's in the past." He's like, "But it still hurts." And he's like, "The past does hurt, but you can either stay in it or learn from it." And when we throw that pick six, it hurts. You have people booing you, it hurts, and it can hurt in that moment. But what are you doing to work through that moment to be at your best when the next moment arrives? And I like to use the firework analogy. When a firework goes off, it's there for a moment, it shines, good, bad, or indifferent, and it fades, and you're in the now. You're in that next moment. And my philosophy is, the win the now mentality. We have to win what's here in the present moment.
And when Rafiki takes another swing with the stick, Simba ducks.
Yeah.
He learns from that painful experience, which is so many times. And I think about this in my own career. So many times you've provided that painful moment, but not provided that second swing with the stick where they can prove that they learned from it, or encourage them to learn from that moment.
Yeah, and that often, I believe, happens. As coaches, every coach I know have communicated with talks about just move on to the next play. But it's words. It's not holistically a part of what they are and what they do. And so I believe, quarterbacks learn from that, and all players, any part of your life learns from that when they see it being applied from their leaders. So when that pick six happens and they're going down the sideline and it's really, all right, hey, next play, don't worry about it. Go on, you put your arm around them. All right, what did you see here? Boom. And they feel that from you. They're going to dodge that. They're going to dodge the how would I say it? The urge to stay in that moment. They're going to identify the moment, have a wiser relationship with the moment, identify what it was, allow it to fade, and just move on. And when they see that as a culture, it works.
One of the really cool things about the book is that throughout the book, in every chapter, in every component of the book, whether it's preparation or all of the things that you talk about, there are actually worksheets, and it's an interactive opportunity for the athlete to talk about and write down, which is, I think, really important. Not just talk about, but write down his goals, his steps to his goals, about his ability to be in the moment, about the, how to actually become more mindful
Right.
as an athlete. And that's why I say, to me, it's a fantastic quarterback book, because no position on the field has to deal, and you make this clear very early in the book, no position on the field has to deal with as much as a quarterback has to deal with mentally,
Right.
emotionally, physically. It's the hardest position to play in all of sport. And yet we have, go to YouTube, there's a million drills, there's a million things, there's a million guys coaching, the footwork to how the ball comes out of your hand, to yada, yada, yada.
Right.
There's all kinds of that information. But this is the first time I've ever seen the mental aspect, the mindfulness aspect, the ability to cut it loose and just play, right?
Yeah.
Which is something that I think about all of the really good ones. And Marcus, it's amazing. I've had the opportunity to be around, coach 5 different Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, and all different guys, all different personalities, all different physical structures, all different God-given abilities.
Right.
But the one thing that I would say is common with all of them is they had the ability, particularly when they were in, quote, the moment that you talk about, flow, when
Yeah.
they were, June describes it this way, playing without a conscience. It's like
Yeah.
they were so free at that moment.
Yeah.
And how to
yeah.
access that is what another key of why I think this is such a great book, because you actually take an athlete into how to access that flow that the sports psychologists talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And so some people who have read the book will be like, oh, so all of a sudden I'll just fall into this state of Zen. I'm like, well, I'm not. If you do, wonderful, be a billionaire. But it does provide that map for you to begin that making, as you said, begin making that a part of your routine and your lifestyle. And it's provides opportunities for you to also identify when you're there, how to keep yourself there, or even mindfulness is really identifying when you're not there, and then having those routines to bring you back, just being fully present. Been watching for years. I mean, Tom Brady, I mean, it's eerie when he's going into that state. The Super Bowl against Atlanta, I remember smiling at my friend, and he's sitting there with his head down on the beat, and they have this shot of him down, whatever it was, big. And I smiled at my friend. He said, why are you smiling? I said, because people are mistaking his calmness for defeat. And they as a pretty similar as a culture are able to, but just as a culture, I think that's one of the best examples. And there's been many through history. One of the best examples of just being fully present. And of course, Tom does an incredible job of that, but that entire culture of that organization was able to just be in that moment, one at a time. And, you could see, as some of the Atlanta players have admitted, they started getting a little, anxious. They were projecting ahead and trying to, do more than they could do. And I think that's just a great lesson for everyone with that example.
Well, I think that's a tremendous analogy right there, because you talk about that game, and they were 8 minutes from a Super Bowl championship. Atlanta was 8 minutes. But the problem that they encountered in those 8 minutes is they mentally were trying to get to zeros on the clock, as opposed to playing that one play that they had with 8 minutes left to go, and then the next play with 8 minutes or 7 minutes and whatever seconds left to go, and then the next play at 6 minutes, and so forth. This is fascinating stuff, because my brother Marcus, who's a baseball coach on Kauai, went to West Point, and West Point has a leadership college on campus where my brother goes and does basically mindfulness training for athletes. And he subscribes to a lot of the same things you do: positive self-talk, how to get yourself focused and be in the now, all of the things that are, quote, new agey for football coaches, but really for every athlete, for every human being. These are skills that carry over. We always talk, I love to talk about transferable skills, things that a running back has to do, that a defensive back has to do physically. But these are all transferable mental skills for every athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I put the book together, I first wanted to go after, of course, the quarterback position, because that's we already touched on.
That's your thing.
It's the thing. But when being able, to your point, to have things be universal that can be applied is really the main goal, where I'm taking that next step. But we often have, like you said, there's drills to do a bunch of things. There's the footwork, the throwing, how to read coverages. There's so many other systems. I mean, there's the run and shoot, there's the triple option, there's the Earhart Perkins offense, the Don Coryell, Sid Gillman, I mean, West Coast, you name it. There's all of these different ways to do things. But what's something that, what's something that I can contribute to the game that's universal, that anyone can apply. And that when a coach applies, and or a quarterback coach applies, it allows them to be maximized, in their system. We're definitely not. So there's no, wishbone versus run and shoot clash on which way's the best way to do things. This can, however you want to do it, this can help.
I'm telling you. Like, I was going to say you hit a home run with this, but that's a baseball analogy. So let me say you threw a touchdown pass with this one. This is a great book, and I recommend it extremely highly. You can get it at coacheschoice.com. Hit up Marcus. Marcus, how can people follow you on social media and stay in contact with you? So if they have questions about the book or questions about mindfulness training for athletes in general, how do they reach you?
So just second with the book, you can find it on Coach's Choice, and then you can also get it on through Amazon, which is, you probably get it pretty quick through that way too, if you have Prime. No sponsorship, but shout out to Prime. They've saved me a few times. But yeah, you can reach out to me at Win the Now FB, WINTHENOW FB on Twitter, and you can hit me up with a message, and I'll definitely respond. And just like I'm always looking forward to learning as well, and hearing feedback and from everyone. I'm a student of the game first, so.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. What you are is a great man and great football coach, and I really think as a guy that has watched your career blossom from that young kid that just had so many questions.
I knew it all back then.
The
longer I coach, the more I realize I don't know much. So.
But it's awesome to reconnect with you, and congratulations on the book, and thank you for being on the show. And we're going to have you on the show, and we'll delve into some of this stuff even deeper as we go forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Marcus.
Yep, no problem, Coach.
Much aloha, man.